Hi, I'm Supervisor Don Knabe. I'm pleased to welcome you back to another episode of Dialed In. A term you may have heard me use over the last couple of years is realignment. It's a fancy way of describing what the state of California did to solve its prison overcrowding problem. They sent thousands of prisoners to local governments like Los Angeles County. Los Angeles County now has over 19,000 prisoners in our jails, and we're responsible for over 17,000 parolees on top of that. With high recidivism rates, it is extremely difficult to get these individuals the services that they need to start a new life. That's where Homeboy Industries comes in. Homeboy Industries is the largest gang intervention program in the country. It was created to provide former gang members and recently incarcerated men and women a variety of services, such as job training, mental health counseling, and tattoo removal. They also provide employment opportunities through their business enterprises, including Homeboy Bakery and Homegirl Café. I'm pleased to have the founder of Homeboy Industries join me today. We also have two young people whose lives veered off course, but they found hope and a new start once they came to Homeboy Industries. I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome back to Dialed In. Our first guest today is the founder of Homeboy Industries, Father Greg Boyle, or Father G as he is known. Father G is a Jesuit priest who has taught at Loyola High School, has served as pastor of the Dolores Mission Church in Boyle Heights. He started Homeboy Industries in 1988. It is now a model program for gang intervention around the country. Father G is the author of the New York Times best-selling book, Tattoos on the Heart, The Power of Boundless Compassion. I'm honored to welcome my friend to today's show. Welcome, Father G. Well, as I mentioned, Father Boyle, it started in 1988. What kind of services did you offer back then? Was it a firm program, or how did you really get started?
Well, we started in '88 mainly as a kind of a dispatcher, trying to find employers willing to hire gang members and felony-friendly folks, And that was the first thing we did, along with a school that kind of attracted gang members to our place. And so after that, we weren't able to find as many employers who were willing to give these folks a second chance.
So you created industries. Now you do tattoo removal, solar paneling, bakery.
Well, a lot of it was just listening to this population and then saying, well, what do you think would help? And that's how tattoo removal was born. That's how mental health therapy was included in what we offer, case management, and then employment services, because once they're with us for 18 months, we want to move them on and smoothly transition them into other employment.
Well, you're celebrating your 25th anniversary this year. Is that correct?
That's right.
So what do you see as the most effective way? I know what the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway, to help people get out of gangs and start a new life.
Well, I think it was important for the gang population, 100,000 of them in LA County, to be able to have an exit ramp clearly marked off this violent, crazy freeway. There wasn't one before, and so if it's despair that leads a young person to join a gang, if there are no ways to kind of exit, then that compounds the despair and it increases the violence. So Homeboy Industries, more than I think, than the help we offer, is the hope that we signify to this population. Because then now they can imagine life without having to return to prison and without having to engage in violence.
So was it a natural step, maybe with your business, is now you're in grocery stores and, I have my Homeboy chips and my salsa at the house. But, I mean, how did you decide to go that way? I mean, was it just a natural sort of extension of what you're doing from the bakery to the business, to the cafe, to...
Well, everything was kind of an evolution. So part of what we were finding was that this population had a level of comfort in coming to us. So I don't think there's a gang member of all those in LA County who doesn't know about Homeboy Industries. Yeah. And we serve the whole county, so any zip code that has gangs has seen members of those gangs come to our place. So as they're coming, so we wanted to respond to the great need and the fact that they...
I don't think there's a zip code in the county without a gang, probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
So how does someone get into the program? I know they come to you, and then what happens?
Yeah, the interesting thing about Homeboy is that you have to come to us, and so we're not for those who need help, we're only for those who want it. And I travel over the country and I give a lot of talks and I meet programs comparable, or at least trying to serve this population. And they always have one question. It's not, how do you pay for this? They always say, how do you get this population to go to your place? And that's not our problem. So and that's why I would, always hope to capitalize on the fact that they're comfortable, that it's culturally appropriate, the services they receive, and that they're welcomed, and the place is a community that accepts them, and community in the end will always trump gang.
Well, particularly if they want to be there. It's like any other kind of addiction program.
It's like recovery.
It's recovery of any sort. You have to want to do it.
It's the only way it works.
There's no program that works for you.
That's right.
If you're being, force-fed a program, it's not going to work.
That's right.
So what do they have to do to stay? I mean, obviously you're not going to be able to hire everyone. So if someone gets in the program and one of your businesses, how do
Well, part of what we do is we offer this there's a hopeful waiting. There's drug testing and then orientation, selection committee, lottery to get a place in. So it's in demand. But while they're waiting, we have classes and people are always paying attention to them. So it's an attractive place for them to be. But after 18 months, we move them on because we need to bring more people in.
So you actually have a lottery. I mean, you have that many people coming to you.
Yeah, it's difficult. Every Friday morning we have a lottery, so we pick one name.
So you have a selection committee made up of members of the community,
no,
or
homies
homies?
and staff who work at Homeboy Industries.
So they do an interview process with those wanting into the system.
Yeah, and so we're kind of a reverse cherry picker because we're not. It's not who's the most qualified to come through, but we're kind of looking for the folk who have the most obstacles. If they're not filled with obstacles, then we move them on to one of our job developers who finds them a job in the private sector. But we want to help folks who want to heal and do it in a complete and permanent way so that they don't reoffend and go back to prison.
Right, and the whole thing about recidivism is that's the development, to be able to overcome those obstacles and put yourself in a position where you have confidence to move forward.
And it's resilience, it's re-identification, it's attachment repair, but it all happens in a therapeutic community. And I think it's even the difference between sobriety and recovery in addiction. If we just found them a job, it's sobriety, but it's not long lasting. But recovery is a whole other level of consciousness.
Absolutely, that's forever.
That's forever, and that's what happens at Homeboy.
So obviously, some young people come through and even get picked in the lottery, and they are not able to finish it, or that circle of life that is around them, they just,
Well, we're strict that way, because we always say no hanging, banging, or slanging. So we expect that you're not in your neighborhood in the gang turf. We expect you not to be selling drugs, and we expect you not to be engaging in gang banging activity, from writing on the walls to whatever it might be. But then we say to people, well, obviously you're not ready. Come back when you're ready. In the same way, at a drug rehab, you would say to somebody, look, we don't really tolerate you using drugs in this drug rehab. So go, we're going to let you go. But come back when you're ready. And we have that conversation often with folks.
So in the scheme of things, as you put together, have done since 1988 in all these various industries, what kind of, the administrative piece, the operational piece, are those people that have recovered through your program? Are they outside people? Or how does your team sort of...
So we have what we call 80 senior staff, and they're supervisors. They're the ones who run the place. And I'd say half of them are from the program, are folks who have gone through the program and are now running the bakery or now supervising case management. So they're the folks who are gang members who model for our trainees what it looks like to be fully in recovery as a gang member who's left behind all the stuff we would hope them to leave behind.
Yeah, I mean, because that has to be a big piece of the mentoring. I know, like out at Rancho Los Amigos, the hospital, you have a situation where you have these patients and doing things. Someone in a wheelchair telling someone else in a wheelchair has a much greater impact than me saying you can do anything you want to do.
Plus, it's
you
ownership.
You can preach it, I can do it, I can say, it's America, you can do whatever you want. But you have someone that's been through the program, the banger that's been there and done that.
Huge.
It's huge. It means a lot to the young people. So as they move forward, then operationally they become a very important part.
Yeah, they're the key members of my executive team, key members of what we call the council, the people who kind of keep their ear to the ground and decide what needs to be done.
A vision for the future. I mean, as you you know, like you say, it's sort of evolutionary the way things happen, but now obviously the success and being wanting people to be into the system, what do you see as the future of Homeboy?
Well, you know, it tries to imagine, you know, for society at large, you know, what if we were to invest in people rather than just endlessly, futilely trying to incarcerate our way out of this problem. And I know we're on the same page that way, because in the end, it has a singular impact on public safety in LA County if, in fact, you know, put some resources in aftercare, reentry, people rehabilitating their lives and redirecting where they want to go. You see the benefit in our county, I think, and we have in the last 20 years.
Well, I think just in the, you know, numbers of gangs, I mean, some of that gang number reduction, obviously, Homeboy Industries has been a very important part of that. But it is true. I mean, not only from a public safety standpoint, obviously, when the culture has changed inside the brain, that's not just go up and shoot somebody or hurt somebody. That reduces the number of jail beds needed.
Even common sense tells you if there is no place in the country that engages more gang members than we do. If we're engaging them, then that means law enforcement isn't. And that's what we hope for.
Well, I know. I mean, you've been out to speak to a number of groups that I've been a part of, you know, that Stepping In conference where we're trying to bring mental health and law enforcement together because, you know, they're usually on the front lines of all this. And it's not always an issue of somebody being bad, but a mental health issue. And that's a big part of your upfront rehabilitation, I would assume, at Homeboy.
That's
correct?
Right. That's right.
You do a lot of the mental health programs, and
yeah, because you know what propels a kid into a gang is you know the three profiles. You know, kid who's despondent, or there's kid who's hugely traumatized and damaged, and then there's the mentally ill kid, and there's combinations of all three. And so, if we can infuse hope to kids for whom hope is foreign, or heal kids who have been damaged and traumatized, and deliver mental health services in a timely, appropriate way, you've really done something pretty effective in terms of stemming that tide.
Well, we're fortunate enough today to have a couple of your success stories with us, as you know, and we talked in the back there. But again, Father G, I just don't know where to start to say thank you for being able to take the time to join us today, to be part of this program. But I think more importantly, what is happening is just, it's a generational thing. I mean, what has started in 1988 as we continue to move forward has an incredible impact on the culture, the public safety, more importantly, the lives that are being changed to move forward, work, and feel confident and feel good about themselves. And you have to be pleased and proud of.
Well, that helps everybody, and it builds a community that's safer and more whole and healthy.
Well, good. We look forward to the next book.
Yes, I look forward to writing it. So.
Very good, sir. Thank you very
Don,
much.
As
Father
always.
G, as always, my friend.
Thanks.
Father Gregory Boyle, and we will be right back.
When a child is born, it should be the happiest time in one's life. But for some, it's just too difficult to handle. Think before you do the unthinkable. There is an option. Don't abandon your baby.
Hi, welcome back to Dialed In. My next guests are Dominique Frazier and Steve Avalos. They both grew up in South Central Los Angeles area and had multiple run-ins with the justice system. They both found the support and help that they needed at Homeboy Industries, where they now work full-time helping and mentoring newcomers. Dominic and Steve, thank you for joining us today. We had Father G on earlier, and now we get to talk to you, and both of you, and we appreciate you joining us today to share a little bit about your story. So tell us about your life before Homeboy. You know, how old were you when you joined a gang, or how long were you a part of that life? Something you'd like to share about that prior to getting to Homeboy?
I know for me, it's weird because a lot of the gang members I did hang around, instead of wanting me to join the gang, they pushed me to go to school. I was raised by a single mother, so a lot of the run-ins I had with the law were self-initiated, just following the wrong element a lot of my life.
And then sort of what drew you to make that decision to sort of back away from that? And
Well, for about 8 years, I was in an abusive relationship, and I have a son. And so I wanted my son to basically be able to look at me and say, you know, that's my mom right there. I wanted my family to be able to say, life has dealt me some pretty hard blows, but I took the punches, got back up, and I'm still standing.
you knew what the bottom was, so you wanted to raise yourself to the top.
Basically.
Right, to be that part of it. So,
Right.
Steve, what about you? How long, you know, how long were you an active member? Were you an active member, or similar to Dominique, or what was your relationship?
Well, early on, like for me, as far as like the gang, I pretty much grew up in it. My mom, my dad, my aunts, my uncles, cousins, brother. We're all from generation to generation from the same gang. It wasn't really so much the gang as much as it's just where we all grew up from. They grew up in the same place. So early on, I seen like the bad part of it, as far as like the, you know, on the outside looking in, you get like loyalty, love, things like that. But on the inside looking out, you feel like the pain of what comes with it, prison and hopelessness and things like that I experienced growing up. My father was murdered before I was born behind the gang violence. My mom's sister was murdered. My mom's brother was sentenced to life without. I have a brother, he was 15 years old. They opened him up with AK-47, took his life behind gang violence. So I pretty much knew that lifestyle and something I didn't want to be a part of. But later on in life, everything I hated, I became a follower, because in times like where I needed somebody, they were always there. So I would say about 13 years old is when I started running around the streets, and by 14 years old, I pretty much committed to this is going to be my life. And by the time I was 17 years old, I was sentenced to life in prison behind gang violence.
So was that your turning point, is to make you realize that that's something you wanted to get out of?
For me, it wasn't just going to prison with life, seeing my victim's mother. And having to see, she had planted a seed for me, to be honest with you, early on, and she had. I expected her.
Your victim's mother planted the seed.
Yeah, because she forgave me for what I have done, you know.
Wow.
And one of the things though is that she made me realize is that that me and my victim were more the same than we were different. I grew up playing baseball, so did he. The same church she went to is the same church my mother went to. His father wasn't in his life, neither was mine. He got involved in gangs because he felt loved and accepted. I kid you not, that's the same reason I got involved in gangs, because I started to feel the love and acceptance. And so when I started to realize we were more the same than different, that was the first seed for me that maybe we're not so much enemies, maybe we are more the same. You know, and that was something that I carried on. Later on, going to prison and stuff, the cycle continued with my kids. They ended up in the same lifestyle in child services. One of my homeboys was murdered in their bedroom, you know. So the lifestyle was still going, and they were kids. And I felt the only thing I can give is what I had, and I really didn't have nothing besides hate, resentment, and just a twisted way of thinking. So for me, I felt like if the least I can do is try to better myself, even in here for them. And so that's like a little bit of transition to change, was just to try to better myself.
Well, I know, a lot of times they say, and speaking to the generational aspect of it, Grandpa was a gang member, Dad, and now grandson kind of a thing, and that is an important piece. And to sort of get outside that 12 square blocks or whatever the size of the gang area is a major, major step. And what an amazing story that your victim's mom forgave you. And so how did you get to Homeboy Industries?
I actually heard of it through my mom. She worked at a drug rehab program, and she told me about it. And so when I got there, I had done 20 hours of community service because I was getting ready to get off probation, and that was one of the stipulations. So I went through the whole hiring process, started taking the classes. Just this September, I passed my GED after trying since the age of 19.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I mean, you went through the interview process, and Father G was explaining it earlier. Then there's a selection committee,
Yeah.
right? And then you get into a pool, and then they pull your name. And so, what about you, Steve?
That's it was a little different. I had actually Father G had wrote me a letter, or Father Greg Ball. We simply know him as G, right?
Okay.
He had wrote me a letter when I was incarcerated. And at the time I had a life sentence. And one of the things that it was a support letter basically saying that if I were to get out, not only would I have a job, but we have so much beyond the job. We have therapists, a psychiatrist, and job employment, tattoo removal, everything that pretty much fit me. So he had wrote a letter for me on my behalf. And after I was found suitable, I had to still go before the governor. So it took about 5 or so months. So when I finally got released, you know, one thing I had heard, like, Father G, he talks like in juvenile hall, in camp, and then like people here in prison, like, you know, Homeboy Industries is built for people like us. So when I had got out, I wondered, because it was so long after, I said, I wonder if G, I wonder if he still remembers me, you know, or even if he remembers that letter. It was 5 months later, maybe even longer than, maybe like almost a year probably. Or I wonder if even if he thought I was going to get out. And I remember I was home, and he was in Boston at the time, and my mom gets a text. And she says, and it says, G says, congratulations, Steve, on coming home. I'll meet you on Monday. And I came in on Monday. He gave me a hug and a job.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing, huh?
Yeah, he's an amazing man.
He is an amazing man. You know, so what do you, I mean, what did you think when you first entered the program? I mean, you sort of had a reference from your mom and maybe a little background. You had that letter, but not really knowing what you were walking into. So what were some of your first thoughts when, is this real, or I mean, what were you thinking when you made that first step to sort of sign up, to go through the process, to take a class or do the therapy? Obviously, you're coming from a different facility, from incarceration. You're coming from a different way too. But what were your first thoughts once you made the decision and you got there? What were your first thoughts?
I guess for me, it was kind of like a tunnel vision thing. I saw what I wanted. For example, there is a GED plaque, and there were 12 slots of it left to be filled. And I looked right at it, and I said, my name is going to end up in one of those slots. And sure enough, in September, I filled in the last slot.
That's good. What about you?
Like for me, it was like coming from being incarcerated, you walk in there and you see a lot of people tattooed up, different gang members from different places. And I remember the first day I walked in there, and I was kind of like nervous, as you know, at that time it was, I'm coming from a different environment, incarceration. And you go in there and like everything, like incarceration is black, white, Mexican, Southern, Northern, everything is separated. And then you go to Homeboy Industries and everything is together. It's like G says, it's kinship. We're all the same. And you walk in there and somebody walks up to you and says, hey, my name is such and such. Hi, I'm such and such. Or is this your first day here? And they make you feel comfortable. And before, every morning, 5 days a week, right? I kid you not, this is what blew me away. I thought it was just one day I got there, but it's every day they meet up in the morning, and then like the first thing they'll do is they'll acknowledge, like, you got your kids back, you're off probation, you're off parole, and everybody, like the whole facility, like 100-something people are right there every morning, and they acknowledge it and they applause, or you know, or they'll do stuff like that, or if it's your birthday, whether you like it or not, they're gonna sing you happy birthday, you know. And like,
it's been a long time since somebody sang you happy birthday.
What the heck, you know? And then like they do stuff like that, and then 5 days a week, every day, like somebody will talk about gratitude, a thought of the day, and then every day somebody will lead us in prayer. And every time it's somebody different. It's one of them guys you see tatted up, or somebody you would think, like, who is this dude? And he's the one that leads us in prayer. And I think that was something that I never experienced in my life. That was, it was like, it's filling for the soul, you know? It's an amazing place. You
know, I've been over there, obviously, numerous times, meeting with Father G, and also at the Café. And the thing, though, is experience is everybody sort of saying hello, but then every once in a while, because I was going to ask you this question, coming from where you came from, there might be a devious little eye, like, you know, like, hey, dude, you know, I recognize you from, you know, way back. So how's that dealt with internally in Homeboy Industries, as far as maybe from a competing gang, or, you know, somebody that maybe you had conflict with, and all of a sudden you meet up at Homeboy and, you know, kumbaya, right?
Right. Like that's what makes Homeboy successful, because it's not mandatory, like, well, you have to come there. Everybody that comes to Homeboy wants to come to Homeboy. And when you realize when you get there, it's not so much about the job, it's everything else they provide. The job helps you in so many ways as far as stress, but it's 45 groups that we take. And as you sit in these groups with other people, you realize that we're more the same. And I know the first day when I had walked in there, I had thought, you know, somebody's going to hit me, someone's going to, you know, and they never did. I've been there over a year. No one's ever asked me where I'm from, nor have I ever asked anyone where they're from. Our goals are pretty much the same, which is to better our lives. And I think that's where what we stay focused on. You know, you do have kids that come in there that are like 16, 17, 15, 14, coming out of camp, and they run into these situations where they see these other guys and, oh, yeah, that's my enemy, or I have problems with them in juvenile hall or camp. But they realize, like, their homeboys are there, and they're older than them, and they're the example for them. If they can be around, if they can treat this guy good, why can't I?
Right, and to be able to stay in the program, they need to treat each other pretty good too, right?
Yeah, we're the examples, you know, and then others to follow. So that's kind of the way it is. Somebody paved the way for me, and now I pave the way for somebody else. That's the way it works.
So what do you say is your future? I know you got the first goal. You probably have a little checkoff list there. You got that GED that you're proud of. So what's your next step? What do you see as your future?
I'm going to go back to college, of course. I'm thinking about being a domestic violence counselor.
Wow. You bring a lot of experience to that. I mean, based on what you said your background was, and that's probably a huge issue. I mean, I know that I have a lot of domestic violence shelters in my district that that I represent, and obviously that's a critical part of the counselors to sort of walk people through this, to know that there is another side of that life, and there is exit opportunities, and not have to live through it.
Oh yeah, it really is, because the first thing that was told to me regarding my domestic violence relationship, the words from my dad, he looked me right in my eye and he said, all you have to do is make the first step and leave, and we got you the rest of the way. And so far I've been out of that relationship for 2 years now, and my parents have made good on their word, I can honestly say.
And you've made good on yours. You got your GED.
Yeah.
Steve, so what do you see as your future?
I feel like for myself right now, I work with the youth. My vision is still to continue to work with the youth. So the more education I have, the more I learn, the more I know, the more I can give back. But that's basically to help those that were like me at one time, other gang members, whether youth or adults, but it's to give back. I feel like that's like in my heart. That's my passion. Is I know, like, I was a good kid growing up. I know I had a good heart, and things went wrong, a lot of influences and things like that. And for me, that's what I want to give back, is because I think, like, to get involved in gang, you get in a circle around friends, and your friends beat you. And then after they beat you, you get up and say, thank you for letting me be a part of you. Tell me somebody's not broken. Tell me something's not wrong to get beat by your own friends for acceptance. And that's like my vision is, and my goal in life is to give back. Is because you can have the love, you can have the acceptance like Homeboy gives you without having to take life or give your life for it.
That's right. Give it or take it.
You know what I'm saying?
In the thing to both of you, obviously I want to congratulate you on your courage. I mean, these are big steps. Once to take that step out of where you both have been to the next step, to Homeboy, and then to give back. I mean, it takes an incredible amount of courage. And the important thing to remember, I mean, the education obviously is important as you move forward and your life goals and those kinds of things. But trust me, there's no books out there with chapters about what you both have been through. And that's the piece of experience that you have to give back, because that's life. That's a life that you have lived. You weren't happy with it, but you're happy with your life now. You've made some incredibly important decisions. And I just want to take the moment to congratulate both of you for your courage and wish you Godspeed and good luck going forward. And we'll give a high five next time with the Bachelor of Arts degree or whatever it may be, and to wish you both the very, very best. And truly appreciate, I know you're a little nervous today, but truly appreciate both of you taking the time to be here and share this with the audience. So good luck.
Yeah,
Thanks for being here.
You can get some help in here, please?
Daddy, maybe he can help.
You don't have to work this hard to keep zombies out of your home. Use parental controls or the V-chip to block your kids from scary TV.
Thank you again for tuning in to Dialed In. I want to thank our special guests for taking the time to join me today. Father G, Dominique, and Steve. They have an incredible story to share, and I really appreciate their taking the time to join me today. Rather than giving up on our young people and sending them through an endless cycle of incarceration, Homeboy Industries changes lives. By helping these people get out of gangs and start a new life, they're impacting families and lives for generations to come. If you would like more information about Homeboy, go to homeboyindustries.org. Thank you again for tuning in to Dialed In. We'll be back next month with an all-new show.